So, Emily, when a sale collapses because of finance, what's usually the real reason, and how often do you see that happen?
Me personally, it doesn't happen very often. Um, if a sale is collapsing due to the finance, I would say 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be down to either, a client not being honest with us, especially as brokers, so there's something that's been picked up that we're not aware of, or it's a valuation. For me, 9 times out of 10, it's a valuation that comes back and it's either been downvalued or there's significant damp problems, things like that.
Yeah. So, what is it you're doing then before you do the application for a client that means that you are that confident that if that valuation doesn't come back adverse, right? What are you doing to make sure that your clients are being well looked after then?
So a lot of it is research and experience. So I've been in finance a long time. But for me, it's all down to the prep work. There really is kind of that key in making sure that you are fully prepared. So you've done a complete fact find. I want to know everything about my client straight up. I want to know one of the questions I ask in my first meeting with a client is that is there anything that I should know? Because you can be honest with me and then let me judge how we present that to the lender. Um, and one of the key things I do as a broker is always have a plan B. You've always got to have a plan B. And sometimes I have a plan C and a plan D because sometimes you need it. If you don't know enough about your client, you are setting them up to fail. Um, and that's not good enough.
Mm. And what's interesting, I don't know if you're right, what your view is on this, but I see myself as the estate agent at the center of everything, right?
Yeah.
So not just list, organize an offer, it gets accepted, don't really give a crap about the financial situation. I've not really done my due diligence on that. I've not asked for your broker details to make sure that you are like ahead of the game with the particular person looking to make an offer. Um, but I do see myself as the center of everything. How do you make sure though that you see the punches coming? And do you see yourself as a broker, as an experienced broker, as the center of everything?
I think you have to. I think, and I don't think it's an egotistical thing. I think it's about making sure that you have that confidence that, and the accountability that the whole deal is based on how well you do your job. If you have that accountability and you feel that pressure, you're going to want to do well. So for me, yes, I do. As far as I'm concerned, if I'm the broker on the case, if I can't get the finance, the deal doesn't complete, right? So
Mm.
I think we all have to. I think conveyancers have to do the same. They have to see themselves as part of that process, but also, well, it doesn't happen without me, so I need to be on my A game. Um, how you predict the punches coming comes with experience. Um, I do my research on the property before I submit the application. So I want the full address and I want the right move link so that I can go and have a look at it. And again, I've been an estate agent, but also being a broker for a long time, I can preempt, oh, hang on, does that construction look a little bit iffy to me? Or, what's it near? Can I see a pub on Street View? Things like that. Um, so it's just down to experience, and then sometimes you don't see the punch coming, and it pulls the rug out from under you very quickly.
Yeah,
Um,
but then, but how do you deal with that? You've not seen that punch coming. How do you then deal with that situation?
Without spiraling, in front of your client for sure. But it's just back to the drawing board. So it's looking at it logically and it's just problem solving. So, okay, what is the problem and how do we deal with that? Do we need to have a conversation with the lender? Do we need to find a new lender? Is this an absolute no-go? Do we need to look at a different type of finance? So, for example, is it that actually the property is in such bad condition or there's something completely missed that we need bridging finance instead of a standard mortgage? There's all those things that come into play where actually if it does go wrong, which let's not pretend it's perfect every time, let's come up with a plan, and it's back to the drawing board and back to researching and back to speaking to lenders.
So let me play devil's advocate then. I thought all you did was, you know, just get mortgages for people, and that's it.
Be
Like
lovely.
literally, somebody calls you up, and you basically, well, you just get a mortgage. That's what you're doing, it.
It would be so nice if that was the case. And I was actually saying to another broker the other day, because I had a tricky case to place, and we're taught, how brokers are taught is you pull up like a sourcing list based on the rates, and it will just give you all the rates in the lowest cost order. And you're taught to go for the lowest cost lender that the client has, that they meet the criteria for. And I went through this list and I got through about 2 or 3 decision in principles that declined. And I thought, "Do you know what? This needs to go in with Barclays," but Barclays are a little bit further down the list. But I followed my gut and I put it in with Barclays and it sailed through beautifully. So a lot of it is down to experience. As for just putting the mortgage through, I wish it was that easy. But there's a lot more involved with the problem solving and packaging them correctly. Because ultimately, you can chuck a mortgage application in with anyone. You can do an AIP with anyone. If it passes credit score, it's great. But if the client doesn't meet the criteria, you're going to fall flat on your face and you're never going to get that offer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And because just in the same way that every property is different and must be treated appropriately, I imagine that every client of yours is different and must be treated appropriately.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you can have 2 different clients that are exactly the same on paper, criteria wise, and they could end up with 2 different lenders.
Yeah. And in fact, talk me through that, right? What does properly qualified actually mean before a buyer even thinks about putting an offer in?
Ideally, they want to have a broker in place. You cannot have a properly qualified client without a broker, as far as I'm concerned, because, like I say, you can go to anybody. You can go to any bank and get an agreement in principle. I can go, if your credit score is good enough, I can go into any lender I want and get an agreement in principle. You can put any information in, and it will tell you what you want to hear. Um, so properly qualified by a broker means you've got somebody that has gone through your affordability, has gone through your criteria, and got you an agreement in principle with the lender that is the most likely lender to lend to you at that point. So they've assessed your source of deposit, assessed your income, assessed your criteria. And when I talk about criteria, I mean, how long have you been in your job, what type of income you've got, whether you're employed, self-employed, if you've got any adverse credit. So we assess all of those things before we even give you an agreement in principle. So the legwork has been done. So that means if I'm presenting any client to one of your vendors, John, and I've looked after it, there should be no reason other than the property not meeting valuation that client doesn't get a mortgage offer.
Yeah. I've recently had someone that, because as we did, for example, when shameless plug on your behalf, advertising. Of course, I absolutely love you to bits and I love the way that you operate. And that's why I want, obviously, professionals on this show, right? So I was banding your name about like it was confetti to 29 people, right? To basically use you as a broker. And of course, they would have their own brokers and so on and so forth. But one of the things I do before offers actually get submitted to my client, i.e. the seller, I want to speak to Emily Franks. And I want to speak to Emily Franks about Emily Franks's client and say, right, really honestly, be honest with me, tell me the truth. This house has no gas central heating. It needs a new fuse box. It's going to need a total rewire. Can you guarantee me that you have, right, a lender that is not really going to have a problem about this, whatever that lender is, or maybe multiple lenders? This broker came back to me and said that they had over 200 lenders available.
Massive.
But when it came back to it, though, when it actually came to it, guess how many they really had? They
If
didn't have
they're
full access to the entire market, which
no,
basically meant that the buyer couldn't actually buy that house. And that buyer's not buying the house, by the way. But the point is that that's so important for me because I am, as an agent, going to do my due diligence. And I don't want anything or anyone to say things to me that sound nice. That's why I'm leading with this house has a major issue. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
potentially. Right. How are the lenders going to react to that? But where do you see buyers getting approved on hope rather than policy? And how risky is that for sellers?
It's incredibly risky for sellers. And buyers being approved on hope drives me a little bit insane. And they tend to be the ones that, "Ah, I don't need a broker, I'll do it myself. I don't need to pay your fee, I'll do it myself." And you think, okay, but do you actually know the lender's criteria inside out? I mean, I am really passionate about my job and I retain what most people would call useless information. Um, but as a broker, it's vital because, you know, as a client that goes to NatWest or Barclays and says, I'd like you to, look after my mortgage because I bank with you, fine. The lender's going to go, yeah, no problem. Here's an agreement in principle based on what you've told me. But oh, actually, um, you're self-employed and you only have 1 year's books. That's not our policy. So there's a difference between getting an agreement in principle being approved on hope and me going, well, why would you even go with them in the first place? Because it doesn't fit. So the danger to your seller of a client doing that to for a buyer doing that to them is ultimately financial, and a waste of time. Because if you've got 29 people coming to see a house and you choose that one person that's got approved on hope, and they've just gone to their bank for an agreement in principle and they slap it down in front of you, um, you've lost 28 other potential buyers that have gone looking at something else. You've wasted 6 to 12 weeks potentially. Depends how soon, depends on the lender, how long it takes for them to approve the mortgage. You've paid fees for perhaps an ongoing purchase. Um, it's just, it's a nightmare for sellers. And I understand why estate agents say to them, do you want us to qualify your buyer? But it's whether they're doing it properly. And I think that's where you stand out. Like, I'm not blowing smoke, but you will show me a property and say, "What can I do with this?" Like we had one with Japanese knotweed, didn't we? And you
Mm.
you said, "Is this gonna be a problem amongst lenders?" And that gives me time, firstly, to go and tell you, is there gonna be any problems? Well, the short answer is no, depending on the grade. But that's properly qualifying your future buyers. That is making sure that we know any problem that could come up if I end up being the one that looks after that property. And if you don't do that, if you've got estate agents, especially the big corporates out there that are qualifying the buyer just to win the business, that's not due diligence, that's sales.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree with you more. How I know when we've spoken, that is asking those questions just very briefly, a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there. And so, of course, my first impressions obviously are brilliant, right? So I'm like, this is great because it makes my life as an agent working for my client, the seller, right, really easy, right? Or as easy as it can be, or as painless as it can be. How involved do you get, if at all, because I know you're busy, right, with agents in trying to guide agents the right way to make sure that they get the right result for their client?
Depends on the agent. I made a few waves middle of the year about conditional selling, and that put, I think, quite a few agents off me. um, but at the same time, if an agent emails me and says, "Look, how are we getting on with this?" I'm always polite, friendly. I will always, as far as I'm concerned, we all want the same result. So if an agent needs my support and they reach out to me, I'm 100% good with that. But I don't deliberately go to them, because I'm always made to feel like I'm stepping on toes, by getting involved. So I look after my client as a number one. I'll speak to conveyancers when I need to, but I leave it up to the agents how much they want to be involved with me. If they want to email me for an update once a week, that's fine. If they don't want to talk to me at all, that's also fine.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. But then I suppose what you're bringing to the party, and certainly what I've experienced, is I know that my reputation as an agent is going to remain intact if I introduce you to any buyer I speak to. Yeah, and so that means that we don't speak a lot,
No,
but when we do, it's with purpose and it
yeah,
actually means something and it's on point and it's professional. Um, but when a mortgage offer, right, um, or wrong, fails late in the day, right, or late in the
yeah.
process, what separates a savable deal from a dead one?
the broker. And yeah, again, that sounds like I've got a huge ego, but it is the broker, without a doubt, because ultimately I've had clients who have gone direct and their mortgage offer's been pulled for one reason or another, and they come back to me spiraling because they don't know what to do. Whereas if I get notification that a mortgage offer has been pulled, I have time to have my little existential crisis on my own without stressing my client out. And then I go back to the drawing board and come back to them with a plan B and say, okay, right, this has happened. So this is what we're going to do now. And this is how we're going to fix it. And this is the problem we've had. And we've had a mortgage offer pulled in the last couple of weeks due to a change of deposit source. I'm actually working with Beth and Yaz on it. And so it does happen. It's none of us are perfect. It does happen. There are things we can't see coming. Plan B application's gone in this week. It's already been cleared by the lender in terms of what went wrong with the first lender. So we're good to go. But that is the difference ultimately, is having a broker that knows what to do when it's gone wrong, and you don't stress out your client, because ultimately that's what they're paying you for. You're supposed to handle the stress. Otherwise, if they're doing it on their own and they're panicking with no plan B or C, what's the point of me? What am I here for?
Exactly. And I think that's where the professionals actually sit, because you're on the front foot. But why though, Emily, are you so passionate about the work you do? What is it? What compels you to want to be involved as much as people want you to be involved? But what is it? Why do you share the punches, in the sense that where you see them coming, you understand, you probably subscribe to the same thing. My philosophy, which is, you can make a mistake, you just can't make the mistake, or wrong. You can make a mistake a million times, you just can't make the same mistake twice. But why, from your perspective though, are you so passionate? Why are you so driven for your clients? What is it?
Um, I think it's the satisfaction of, especially when you've got clients that have been round the block, or they've had a bad service from another broker, or they ring you and they go, Emily, I've got no idea what I'm doing. I know I want to buy a house, but that's all I know. And it's about educating the client. So I'm really passionate about being able to put people back in a position of power in something they don't know, because knowledge is power at the end of the day. And I spent a lot of time learning and honing my craft and what I do. And to be able to pass some of that on to someone else so that they feel confident making the biggest purchase of their life is a really nice feeling. And the satisfaction of getting that mortgage offer in, and whether you've saved clients money on a remortgage, whether you've helped them buy a house that they never thought they could buy, whether they've had poor credit in the past, and you've been able to save them to buy their first home. All of those things makes such a difference to real people, and seeing the impact that a good mortgage broker has, and the difference between them owning a home and staying in rented and paying someone else's mortgage is a really good feeling. So yeah, it's all about, and the fact that they go away from appointments with me knowing more, and knowing that they've got that agreement in principle, so they're back in control now. They know what they can do. That's a good solid feeling.
Yeah, no, I love that. And what do you think estate agents and sellers need to know earlier that they usually only find out far too late?
Sellers are a funny one for me, because the amount of times people put their house on the market and go, yeah, I've had an offer accepted, but I don't know what I can do next. And I'm like, where have you been? You've had your house on the market for 3 months. So my advice to sellers is, don't worry about the sale. Let your estate agent handle the sale. You need to be financially ready for your next move. Because the sale will happen at some point. Nothing is really unsellable. But if you're not prepared for your future purchase, you are going to panic. And also with sellers, what I like to do is, what's your top line? What do you think the agent can sell it for top line? But actually, what are you prepared to accept if you need to negotiate? And I think that's really important for estate agents as well, because some clients can be a little bit blinded by how much they think their home is worth. And I know you, John, are really realistic about, sure, we can list it for whatever you want, but do you actually want to sell it? And that for me is the key. So what I like to do is if a client comes to me and says, right, my house is on the market for 500,000, I'm like, okay, but realistically, what would you be prepared to take so that we can make sure that your onward purchase is still affordable? And that is really important, is the financial planning going forward. And I think estate agents need to be more aware of that as well, because it's great for you guys to get an instruction and put it on the market, but can your seller reasonably move on? And if you don't know that, you could have put all the work into that property to sell it, and actually they can't get the dream house they want down the road because they can't afford it. Um, and then you're stuck with a sold house and a very disappointed client that can't buy the dream house. And yeah, no one wants that, do they? We're just stagnant at that point.
Absolutely. And that's why, for example, when we're talking about, like, Emily talks to me about Japanese knotweed, right? I'm doing that before I even absolutely agree to take that property on.
Yeah.
Equally, the Abbey Wood property, a fuse box, rewire, gas central heating system. I am calling you and saying, talk to me about this. Am I going to have an issue? And then I'm asking all the people that made an offer, all of their brokers, right, this is the brochure, this is potential problems, right? Talk to me. Yeah. Because I think that my due diligence starts probably about when a seller agrees, right, John, I want you to sell my house for me. We start working together probably 6 weeks before that property goes live, in the sense when I do my first viewing. And we spend the first couple of weeks getting all the marketing assets together and doing all the legal side, and also making sure in my Google form that sellers have to fill out, there's 65 questions. And those 65 questions I have to answer. Otherwise, we can't get on the call and start the process until they answer them. And one of those questions is, what is your bottom line?
Yeah.
Exactly what you said,
Yeah.
because so many agents, their business model is to win instructions and get something listed. And then if they sell 3 out of the 10 properties they've got instructed on, they're doing well as far as they're concerned. But what happened to the other 7 sellers that went to market that maybe shouldn't have gone to market at that time, and certainly shouldn't have gone to market with what they were trying to achieve? Because now what I see, that they're on at an inflated price, and now they're trying to mold and shape the market, and the market's like, no chance.
Yeah.
We're not going down that road. So better to know everything up front so you can be sure of yourself moving forward, and all the conversations between solicitor, broker, agent are all on the same page. And you're working with the A team to make sure you get maximum money, yes, but with a big dose of realism and reality as well. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree. And as you know, we've had a conversation before where I don't often work with estate agents because I find that they don't want to be on the same page as getting the house sold. They're targeted on instructions, and it's all about getting the property to market and having a window full of properties on the high street, which is wonderful, but stock goes stagnant if it's not priced right. And ultimately, I'm in the business of helping people move and find out, none of us really get paid until exchange and completion. So what's the point of having all these instructions and all these properties for sale if they're not selling, if you're not going to get paid on putting in that work? So that's why I like being on the finance side, because I have an element of control in keeping that transaction moving. Um, but the way that you work and the way you list your properties, for me, is a huge plus. And it's because they're marketed to sell, and you put the time and effort and care into it. Um, And it's not because you've got 50 instructions in a month, because again, who really needs that many? It's about, you want it on the market and you want to get it off the market as quick as you can to move on to the next one. And that's why as I say, I like the finance side of it, because once I've got a mortgage offer out, I can move on to the next one. Um, and of course, I manage my pipeline and I keep in touch with my clients and look after them right through to the end. But get the mortgage offer out, get the property sold. Let's go. Let's keep that momentum going.
In addition to doing a sterling job for your clients from a mortgage perspective, do you offer any other services?
I do. Yeah. So we look after insurance products and private medical care. So um, private medical insurance is a huge one at the moment. I am a huge fan of the NHS, to the point I offer a blue light card discount on my fees. But private medical insurance is a huge, huge one at the moment. The NHS is under enough pressure as it is. We're having, people diagnosed late, left, right, and centre for all sorts. So that's a huge one that we offer. And then the other side of it is, my job is not only to put the finance in place, but also to actually protect that finance should the worst happen. So, any critical illness diagnosis, loss of income due to accident or sickness, and obviously death, which is a nice, happy conversation for a Thursday morning. Um, but yeah, my job's not to just get you the finance, it's also to protect it and to make sure that you keep that home should the worst happen.
Love that. And if in a sentence you were going to give a seller, or no, wrong, actually, a buyer, one piece of advice before they go to buy a property, what would that piece of advice be?
Be prepared. Just absolutely be prepared. Get as prepared as you can for the financial side of it. Um, and try and take your emotion out of it a little bit.
Emily, mate, thank you so much for taking the time out to record this podcast. You've been an
My
absolute
pleasure.
pleasure. And yeah, I was looking forward to it and you've not disappointed.
Oh, good. Good. It's good to know.
End of podcast.